ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Democracy 3. This is a game that I love to revisit, and recently there was an expansion. The expansion is called Electioneering, and it's all about running your election campaign. I'll not bother explaining it just yet. We'll get right into the game. We'll have a look at it when we get to it. Let's start a new game. We're going to run the United Kingdom because I feel like that's only fair. And I, of course, am not going to be the Liberal Party. I've decided I am going to be the... Where is it? The, Herdian... No, that's not it. Herdian Party. There we go. And we'll go against the... We'll go against the Conservatives. That seems fair. We'll go with standard difficulty and all that stuff. And we'll begin. So, if you don't know Democracy 3, it is basically a political simulator. You run a country. The United States is in the game. The United Kingdom, Australia, France, Germany. I'm not sure who else is in it. I know those guys are in it. So let's begin. As you can see, I have been elected Prime Minister. And as such, the lives of all 63 million citizens are now in my hands. I have to sort GDP. I have to sort unemployment, crime, etc., etc. Let's begin my term of office. So, this is the game. Everything you see here, I can impact upon all of these things. I can get rid of them, I can keep them, I can make them worse, I can make them better, etc., etc. I'm going to walk you through all of the UI before we get into the game, just in case you are new to what Democracy 3 is. So up here is my political capital, and political capital is what you spend to do something. Just consider it that way. Our income is currently 264.3 billion. We are currently spending 275.5 billion, which is a deficit of 11.2 billion. We are 811 billion pounds in debt. Okay, you got it? Good. Stick with me. So all of these are the various categories that I can play with. Down here is tax. This one's going to become very important. We can put new taxes in place. For example, the luxury goods tax. If we went ahead and put that in, it is 79% popular with voters. So I will actually do that immediately. That's going to bring us in 18.6 billion pounds, which will immediately get rid of the deficit. Unfortunately, the wealthy won't like it, the capitalists won't like it, and high earnings will go down. On the flip side, equality goes up, and the socialists will like it. Okay, again, explaining how this all works, that's what all of those things mean. This is just a slider to determine how severe it is, or, you know, if I put it there, we get 36.81 billion, but I'm going to go for a nice round sort of 18.07 billion per quarter. That is an expensive tax. That is it's a hard-hitting tax, but at the moment, we need to get this deficit gone. We also need to focus on crime. And my focus on crime is actually going to be through welfare, because we can fight crime with kindness, and that might sound a bit silly, but what I mean is we can fight crime by saying, hey, maybe instead of committing crimes, here's things to get you off the street. Here's food stamps, for example, which are going to be expensive but absolutely worth it. Food stamps will boost health, they will boost poor earnings, the poor will like it, poverty goes down, socialists like it, farmer income goes up, farmers like it, equality goes up, and I am then seen as more compassionate. Now, compassion actually ties into electioneering, which is what we'll go ahead and get to now. So if we come up to here, this is my electioneering panel. Right now, the Conservatives have 21 million members. I have none, which is a bit weird. The Conservatives have 2.6 million activists. I have none. In terms of the manifesto, there is nothing I can do currently. I make this in the turn before an election. In terms of speeches, I can make 3 in the 3 turns leading up to an election. Sorry, I can't make 3. I can make more than 3, but I'll generally just make 3 in the 3 turns leading up to an election. In terms of fundraising, as you can see, no one has raised anything for any elections just yet. These are the top party donors, but again, we'll get to this. They all, you know, they're all very generous, but they do have sympathies with certain people. For example, this guy has sympathies with the religious and the farmers, environmentalists and socialists, socialist and commuter, and retired and liberal. Now, this is actually good. This is very good for me, because I will be doing a lot of things to boost the socialists. The socialists will come to love me. Liberals will also sort of like me. Commuters maybe a bit less so, but we should be okay because generally speaking, we have 2 socialists and an older person that supports the retired and the liberals, so that's fine. In terms of public perception, I am not really seen as trustworthy. I'm not seen as untrustworthy, but I'm sort of right in the middle. I'm not seen as a strong leader. We can hopefully change that, and I am seen as compassionate. We could pull a media stunt to try and be seen as trustworthy, but we'll not bother because the effects of media stunts will fade off over time, and considering we are currently 4 years from an election, there is no point doing a media stunt. Each turn that we take is 3 months, so each year is 4 turns. So in total, we have, I believe, is it 16 turns? Yeah, 16 turns is a year, I think. Am I right in saying that 4 is a year? Yeah. So we have 16 turns for the 4 years that we're going to be in office. We have 16 turns to make sure that the people like me. All right? You still with me? Good. We have 7 political capital left. With that, I am going to boost the police force, which is more expensive, much more expensive. But that, as you can see, oh, I haven't explained this actually. So these lines that you're seeing, the green ones are what is benefited by this. The red ones are negative effects. So what you're seeing here is that state employees and conservatives are benefited by the current state of the police force. Unemployment is negatively hit by the police force. Violent crime, street gangs, vigilante mobs, and alcohol abuse are also hit negatively. Now, if we hover over street gangs, we can also see that, oh, poverty and unemployment and homelessness are feeding into street gangs. It looks like it says the retired are doing that. No, that's unemployment. And then street gangs are feeding in positively to ghettos. Then you can see that community policing, police force, and CCTV cameras are then hurting street gangs. Again, stick with me. Now, what you can also see is that street gangs are negatively hitting the retired and tourism, as well as the conservatives, and then just everyone. So that, I believe, is the gist of the game. If I was to hover over socialist, you can see what they like, which is pretty much everything I'm doing except for unemployment and poverty. But that's fine. Let's get to the next turn. Let's return to government. We have this, which is a stop and search bill. There are demands from the police for the power to stop and search people on the street. I am going to leave it unchanged. I think you should need a warrant for that. And currently, 26% of people want to vote for me in an election. That's good. That's okay. Now, as you can see, we now have a surplus of £5.46 billion, which is excellent news. If we click on street gangs, you can see that immediately following my action to bolster the police, the street gangs are on the decline, which is good. They are at their lowest in a very long time. We can see that alcohol abuse is going down. We can see that ghettos have been on the decline for a little while. We can see vigilante mobs took a huge hit. And we can see that organized crime, not so much. Now, we can actually help organized crime if we put a lot of money into a spy agency, which is what I'm going to do. So that's going in there immediately. I'm also going to look at getting some more taxes in place, because we do need to maintain a significant amount of money. Although I'm also realizing that it might be worthwhile to look at my economy and try and stabilize it as opposed to hurting everything. I will put maternity leave in place, though. Full pay and paternity leave. Productivity goes down, but everyone generally likes it, so that is fine by me. We can also do things like a National Business Council, Business Startup Campaign, and all that stuff. The National Business Council will give a strong voice to business interests and ensure that the needs of businesses, both big and small, are taken into account. Then a Trade Council. It's always been a hassle to find trustworthy trading partners in foreign countries. With the establishment of a Trade Council, this will become easier. Okay, that's actually not that cheap. This will increase international trade and boost the economy. So let's get that in place. It's not that expensive, so it could be quite useful, and boosting the economy is a good thing. A young entrepreneur scheme, again, only, it's less than $500 million, very popular. The capitalists like it. Socialism does go down, but I like the idea of saying to young people, hey, do you have a business idea? here's some money to make a thing. So that's kind of what we're doing there. And we have no political capital left. So let's go to another turn. So this is, oh, we need to appoint a UN ambassador. Our ambassador to the UN retires this year, and we need to name a successor as soon as possible. So Shannon Robinson is well known as a patriot who will fight tooth and claw to get our interests represented at the UN. Seen as a popular choice amongst patriotic and more conservative citizens, she is historically against foreign aid and a supporter of import tariffs. She is not popular internationally. Gabriel Martin is a popular figure on the international stage with a reputation for solving difficult problems through compromise and understanding. Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go with him. 44% of people will vote for me in an election. Crime is down. This is fantastic. Crime is down. I'm okay with this. I'm very much okay with this. I am, what, 2 turns in? There are, 14 turns left, and 44% of people are going to vote for me. That's fantastic. I could ban antibiotics. That doesn't seem like a good idea. Home fabrication grants, government subsidies for unions. What would this necessarily do? I don't know. I feel like city farms are a good idea, because that way we can... Yeah, city farms would be a good idea, because then you can get fresh produce from farmers, which I think is good. Let's get farmers to be nice and happy there. I do want to look at... I want to look into working. I'm going to get a health and safety law in place. That's all that is. So we'll put that in place. I think public services are probably something to look into as well. Transport as well. But I want to get something like... I want to get public libraries. I feel like that's going to be a good bet. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave public services until I'm halfway through my first term in office, and then switch my focus from crime and economy and welfare to public services and transport. Foreign policy, I'm not too worried about. I think foreign policy is generally fine. I can put import tariffs on, I can do farmland acquisition programs, etc., etc. But I don't really think I want much else in that. I think what I'll do is I will keep my focus on welfare, economy, and law and order. Which reminds me that I actually want a witness protection program. Most definitely want that. I also want to change the firearms law so that you need... I can't do that, actually. That's a shame. I was going to say license and minimum age, which apparently it isn't already. Now, in terms of community policing, we'll knock that up a little bit just so that it can have a buff. In terms of jury trial, the Liberals will like it if we did that. The right to be tried by ordinary members of the public rather than a judge is seen as a fundamental human right by many Liberals. Conservatives argue that such a process is expensive, time-wasting, and is no fairer than a judge or group of magistrates. It's entirely possible to have a system where a jury trial is reserved for more serious offenses, with minor trials presided over by a magistrate. I kind of agree with that. I'm gonna make it a little bit more widespread. No, you know what? That is no. I think that's fine. I think leaving it as is fine. I will put a little bit more money into the Race Discrimination Act, just so that racial tension gets another little hit. And the police force is fine. Yeah, that's fine. Is there anything else I could do here? We could do a National Armed Forces Week so that patriotism goes up and all that stuff. So we'll do that. And I'm seen as a strong leader, so that's fine. Now, in terms of welfare, I think I want to do a... I'm going to get a welfare fraud department in place. It does hurt the poor. I'm seen as less compassionate, but it brings in a little bit of money. And I mean, when government gives so much money out in welfare payments, it's essential that the money is correctly targeted and not exploited by people. Basically, I feel like that's fair. You shouldn't exploit these things, despite your circumstances. There are other options. In terms of rent control, I don't think we'll bother. I do want an alcohol awareness campaign, though. So that's that. Let's, we have 6 political capital. Let's just go to my next turn and see what's up. All right, so there's apparently a superhero. I'll get 57% of the vote. There's nothing else we need to do here, so that's fine. Okay, so 28 political capital. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to look at my cabinet. We don't currently have any loose links. My transport minister is a little bit weak here. These guys basically add up to my political capital. My transport minister is not great. Neither is my economic minister or my minister for industry. I'll not worry about those too much just yet, though. We also have a £21 billion deficit. That's terrifying. Let's see. So is there anything I could do here that's going to help? A youth politics council would be interesting. That would help teach young people about politics. Again, I think we're going to leave it for the time being. Let's see. Ban second home ownership. No. Compulsory work for the unemployed. This includes public beautification, collecting litter. I don't know. No. Childcare provisions. We can ensure more parents return to the workforce after having children and therefore benefit the economy. Although this can be expensive and is also a distortion of the market, it's popular with parents. Okay, what about disability benefit? After a direct payment from the state to disabled people to allow for the fact that they are possibly unable or need assistance to work. Additionally, many disabled people have special requirements. Yeah, we are absolutely doing that. Capitalists don't like it, but I do not care. We are doing disability benefit. Foreign policy, I'm not going to touch. In terms of economy, consumer rights would be smart. Organic farming subsidies would be good. Tax shelters are silly. Technology grants would be... I'm gonna do it. I think religious membership goes down, unemployment goes down, technology goes up, GDP goes up, productivity and capitalists go up. Tell you what, we're gonna spend a lot of money on this. We're gonna spend a lot of money in technology. We're gonna have to find other ways to dig ourselves out of this massive deficit we're gonna get into. But to start with, what we'll do is we'll spend a little bit more money on the hybrid cars initiative, which will be good. And then that's us for this turn. Let's go to the next one and see what's up. So, vigilante mobs are not done. That's excellent. We will get 60% of the vote in an election. This is... basically, debt collection agencies have been using aggressive methods to extract payment from people who owe money. I am going to limit their activity. And good. Right. So, what have we got here? This is still on the decline. This is also on the decline. That's leveling out, which is slightly concerning. Let's see. I think prisons should have a bit of re-education in them, I think. Or extensive rehabilitation. Expensive, but crime would go down. Liberals, yeah. That's what we're doing that. Let's apply those changes. Make prisons into rehabilitation centers as opposed to just prisons. Public tax returns. I don't know. I mean, that's not really going to do anything. That is a fairly hefty tax on superstores. Superstores are convenient, but they have negative effects, such as encouraging car journeys rather than supporting local shops, and their dominance is encouraging a society dominated by big business. I'm going to implement that, which is weird considering I have other policies I've implemented that are like, hey, you know what you should do? You should totally go and make your own business. But I think I'm going to do this just because I could really use the money. I'll knock it down to a 30% tax, though. So let's apply that. We have a £38.004 billion deficit. That's terrifying. We have 1 political capital, so let's go to the next turn and see what's up. Credit rating is downgraded. 61% of the vote in an election. That's fine. That's completely fine. Is there anything I can do in here that's remotely interesting? Human cloning research grants is very expensive. I don't think I'm going to bother with that anytime soon. Yeah, it doesn't really look like there is much I can really do in here. I know that when you play as... Or maybe it isn't America, maybe it was Democracy 3 Africa. I know you can get rid of term limits. But I don't know... I don't actually know if you can put term limits in place here. I kind of don't really want... Oh, good lord, that gets expensive. That gets expensive. Yeah, we cannot afford to make state schools any better than they currently are. State health service would suddenly get very, very... Jesus. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. I'm gonna take this risk though. Capitalists and wealthy and unemployment goes down. Yeah, I'm going to provide excellent free healthcare to every single citizen. Let's continue. So 62% of the vote. That's fine. Free healthcare is about that. Healthcare is going to take a little bit. We have a massive deficit. That's fine. Science funding. I would love to put more money into that. And I'm going to. We are spending this money to get our people to be smart. The downside is, of course, that we now need to tax a lot of things, such as automation. 70, yeah, that's gonna hurt. But we need to do it to sort of counteract the fact that, like, you can be smart, but you're gonna have a lot of money to pay, is basically what I'm saying here. That's how that's gonna have to work. Now let's see. I realize I've been dealing with public services when I'm supposed to be dealing with welfare and law and order. Now, winter fuel subsidies, no. There's nothing I can do with law and order. Witness protection's fine. Violent crime is at an all-time low, which is good. CCTV cameras, I'm gonna knock those up a little bit. There we go. And next turn, let's see what's up. So, we have developed an egalitarian society. Understanding our different backgrounds better and better these days due to cultural exchanges and education, people are now treating each other equally, blurring and even erasing the lines between different races, genders, and beliefs. So people are very, very happy. That's excellent. Okay. So there have been calls for a law to increase the availability of information held on databases about citizens without their knowledge. These include records held by private medical companies, insurance companies, and debt collection agencies, as well as information held by government departments. So, nobody likes the idea of the government holding information about them, but in some circumstances this needs to be done. The government isn't out to spy on everyone, but passing this law will just make it harder for the intelligence services to keep a watch on serious criminals and terrorists. It will also affect a large number of businesses who have consumer databases who will be swamped with yet more bureaucracy. Or, it's essential that we have this law passed, as it's one of the checks and balances required for a truly free society. The average law-abiding citizen should not be spied on or monitored by multinational corporations with computer databases. I'm actually gonna reject this. And I'm not against freedom of information, but in the sense of the game, I'm concerned that this may be literal, that within the game, it will be harder to keep a watch on serious criminals and terrorists. So I'm going to reject it. And I'm also going to take into account that in real life, websites and companies have these pieces of information. Facebook tracks you across the internet. If you sign into Google Chrome, they know what you're doing and put ads very specifically targeted towards you. So these things do exist in real life, and generally we're okay with them. But within the realm of the game, I want to make sure that I'm not dealing with crimes and all that stuff, as I'm not making it harder for myself, basically. Alright, so how many turns through are we? We have 9, so this turn is our final one dealing with, alcohol abuse is going to go away, ghettos are going to go away, street gangs are going to go away, organized crime is gonna go away. Let's look at... Hold on, what's the deficit currently? Deficit's okay. I'm gonna get some police drones. They're not very popular, but they're a pretty good hit on everything. So I'm gonna spend £3 billion on police drones, which is fine by me, which will be a nice nail in the coffin. Petrol tax, I could get so much money from that, but the motorists will hate it. Unfortunately, we can't do that either, so that's fine. But with this turn now being over, we can switch our focus to transport and public services, so that'll be good. I am going to restrict banking bonuses just on principle. And interestingly, we're still getting 63% of the vote. And the current size of my party is 1 million people. The opposition has more members than us, that's fine.